One of my favorite things to do as a teenager was to come up with scheduling ideas for the NHL, and if you expanded how the schedule would change, and I'm not entirely not sure whether or not to be proud of that or not. Uh, you going partying? No, I'm going to figure out a schedule for a league that doesn't exist and figure out how to make it all balance out. Now, one trick is this. So we're going to 32 teams with Seattle, right? And adding another team, it makes scheduling kind of sort of tricky, or does it? So, I decided to look at it a couple of different ways. And we could say, all right, well, we're just going to leave it where your division opponents within, outside in your conference. And then at the other conference, now here's the interesting thing. Let's say they go with 4 times 7. So 4 against every other team in your division, 3 times against teams in your own conference, twice against teams in the other conference. Adds up to 84 games. So 28, 24, and 32. 84 games. So an 84-game schedule. Now what would be interesting with that would be the last time the NHL had an 84-game schedule, they were also doing neutral site games. So you'd have a couple of games that were played in different locations that didn't actually have NHL teams, whether it be Houston, Quebec, Hamilton. You guys get that. And I think there's somewhat of a desire to try that again. I get the feeling that it may very well be there. I think the outdoor game in Regina this year probably has the NHL thinking, we could really sell this game in other locations, and maybe we'd be able to figure out, where we could make the most money, right? And then there's 2 other ideas I had. This one was where things get kind of tricky. So, rivals. I've split each division into 4. So you still have 8 teams divisions, but you have blocks of 4. So here, like for instance, you have Montreal, Ottawa, Toronto, Buffalo. And then over here, Tampa Bay, Boston, Detroit, and Florida. It's not perfect. You could change them every year. When you look at it, over here we've got Vegas with San Jose, Anaheim, and LA. So you'd have Las Vegas and the 3 California teams in that same block. Gets tricky for Arizona. I put them with Nashville, St. Louis, and Dallas. There would be some changes. Here's the thing. You would play those 3 rivals 6 times. The other teams in your division, so 4 other teams, Seattle, Calgary, Vancouver, and Edmonton, would see Vegas 4 times. And then every other team in the league, you play twice. It gets tricky because let's say you play 6 games against each of the California teams and they're all bad. So that's 18 games against California teams if you're Las Vegas. But Vancouver has, let's say, Calgary's really good, Edmonton's really good, and Seattle gets a really good team out of the gate. They then have a much tougher schedule than does Vegas, even though they're in the same division. So that's where it gets kind of tricky. And that's why I know a lot of people are going to say, no, I don't like that idea. That's a terrible idea. And the idea of going with 8 divisions, I would love it, other than the fact that you would definitely have a bad division winner or 2. So the idea of having your top team in each division, you qualify for the playoffs, and then figure out wild cards from there. And of course, the 4 wild cards would come from the West, 4 wild cards from the East, and you keep them separate. Now, one way of scheduling that works as well, and this is how I ended up just saying 4, 3, and 2, because when I tried messing around with this and saying, well, what if we went with 5 times 3? What if we went with 3 times 4? What if no matter what I did, it ended up like 87, 90? So the question that I have to ask is, do you just go with the simple formula to try to get to 82, or do you go to 84? Now, we've seen teams play each other 3 times. We've seen teams play each other 5 times. The NHL seems to be okay with that. On some level, I say, you know what? Teams should play each other an even number of times, so nobody has home ice advantage in that situation. You look at conference matchups, you very often have them playing against each other 3 times. So you may play 2 home games against a team and 1 on the road. Well, what if that team's really good at home and they win both? And if that's the differential of getting in the playoffs, again, this is the kind of stuff that I would think about as a teenager growing up, that other people would be like, come on, just what happened to you? And again, I like to see even numbers. So 4, 3, and 2 gets you to 84. No matter how I figured it out, the closest I could get was 84. The NHL can drop 2 games somewhere in here, and oh, well, this team's only going to play each other twice that year instead of 3 times, and you get down to 82. But I personally like this idea. And I know it's just me. I know other people won't like that idea at all. I fully expect that. But I like the idea of having 3 teams in your division you play 6 times, teams you play 4 times, because I like the rivalry setup. I like the idea of having a home and home, of having something to look forward to. Like, for instance, with Calgary and Edmonton. Just imagine if you had a couple of home and homes. Imagine Rogers having a chance to have 6 games between Montreal and Toronto that they can put on every year. Imagine in the States where you have rivalry matchups, Pittsburgh and Philly 6 times, Pittsburgh and the Capitals 6 times, the Islanders and the Rangers 6 times. You could have these rivalry matchups more often, and you can really rebuild those rivalries to where they used to be. For people who want to see fighting in hockey, here's how you get it. You make these teams really not like each other. Look at the familiarity breeding contempt between San Jose and Vegas. That's a big part of it. They've met twice in the playoffs. They're tired of seeing each other, and they hate each other for it. If you set up a situation where teams are going to play their rivals more often, I think you're going to create better rivalries, and I think you're going to create a more interesting, entertaining product for everybody. Not just for the hardcore hockey fanatics like ourselves, but for casual fans where they'll say, I don't really care unless, LA's playing Anaheim. Yeah, those games are always fun. Minnesota's against Colorado. We love that. It does get tricky because, again, you're going to have, like, Arizona's going to be stuck. I don't know where they, like, the Central is kind of messy. I mean, I've got Nashville as a southern team, Seattle, or St. Louis, Missouri, right? Kind of, not really. And Dallas, of course, the southern team, so I thought, we'll throw Arizona in there. I mean, Winnipeg's not south. Chicago, Colorado, Minnesota, I can't have any of them in the south. And I don't know. I guess there could be a way to do the playoff seedings where it's a little bit fairer, because there's always going to be situations where it could be more fair. And we'll see if things change. But let me know what you guys think. Like, as you can see, I have Seattle in with Calgary, Vancouver, and Edmonton. I think Seattle has to be in Vancouver's division, and you have to have Vancouver with Edmonton and Calgary. They have to be in the same division. It doesn't work otherwise. If they're in different divisions, that just breaks everything up, because then California and Vegas, you wouldn't have them in the same division. There was talk of maybe moving Colorado into this and not having Arizona move it. Like, it just, yeah. There are other ways to do this, but you kind of break the league if you try. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. What would be the ultimate scenario for figuring out scheduling? Or are they just going to take a lazy approach and just, they'll play these guys 5 times and these guys 3 times? And again, this 6-4-2-2, and it makes it more important to play against your division. You'd have 34 games against teams in your own division, 16 against the rest of the conference, and 32 outside the conference. So it's not perfect for people who'd want to see more of their conference rivals, but you get to see more of your division rivals. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. I also had the idea of what if you just get rid of conferences, but then you have to say, okay, so if you're playing within your own conference and there's 15 other teams, now you got to figure out something times 15. Yeah, it's going to have to be an odd number. It'd have to be 3 times 15, it's 45, and then getting 37 games against 16 teams, it just becomes a nightmare. I would not be surprised to see the NHL pick a formula that's kind of odd. Let me know what you guys think, though, regarding scheduling. And again, if I'm the only one that thinks about this kind of thing a year, almost 2 years in advance of Seattle actually coming in. Yeah. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. So let me know your thoughts. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happen upon this video. I might be kind of excited about the idea of there being 32 teams, of having some symmetry in the league, and really seeing how Seattle's going to do. I'm kind of anxious to see how they do after what Vegas did their first year, and the fact that Seattle is as close as they are, bonus for me as well. So there you go. Thank you guys so much for all your support, and thanks on Patreon to Vivian Harmat, who is a $9 patron, and thanks for helping produce this video that you see right here. in all of its loveliness, and to all the other patrons as well. So, again, let me know your thoughts. I'll talk to you again soon.